My friends gave me 2 shirts that they don't wear anymore. They gave it to me that I can upcycle them to fit my own personal style. And these are the shirts in question. Nothing really wrong with them, I just want to add some detail to them. I started with the long sleeve t-shirt. I wanted to add a painting on the front of the shirt and I designed that in Photoshop. I firstly drew a very loose design and on top of it I went with a bit more of a refined drawing, and on top of that I also did my final design. I went with this really squiggly, spiky design. I love these kinds of prints and designs. I love drawing them and they fit my style very well. That's why I wanted to add something like this to the front of the shirt. I thought that it would really nicely bring out my style. And my obsession to these shapes really started in 2020 when I was in fashion school. I used to use these types of shapes in my designs a lot. But with time my skills have refined and my designs are more detailed and a lot better than in 2020. Now that my design was done, I added some cardboard inside of the shirt so that the paint doesn't seep through to the back of the shirt. I found the middle of my shirt and added a line with a fabric pencil because I really wanted to make sure that my design is in the center of the shirt. I also tested the shirt on my body and added some pins to know where I want the design to be when it's actually on top of me. And after that I started drawing on the design with a pencil, but the graphite was not really sticking to the shirt and it was really hard to see what I was drawing, and you can't really even see on the camera very well what I was drawing. But I ended up trying to mark out the most important spots of the design and then I just went straight with the paint. I used some fabric paint medium and I mix it with some acrylic paint. The medium is supposed to turn acrylic paint into fabric paint. I think it works fine. The end result can be a bit crusty and crunchy, but once you iron it, it mostly becomes flat, and in my experience it really holds up in the wash. So that's great, because when I have used fabric markers, they always come out in the washing machine at some point, but with acrylic paint I feel like it doesn't really happen. But the texture can be very crunchy and thick, so the acrylic medium really helps with that, and also ironing. I used a nail art brush for this painting since it was the thinnest brush I had. I use it for really detailed nail art, so I feel like it was perfect for this shirt. I was struggling a bit to keep the lines clean because the shirt was a bit fuzzy. It is a worn shirt. It is a second-hand shirt, so the texture of it is not completely flat, and I feel like with cotton jersey fabrics usually you will always have some fuzziness to the shirt. If I had those little fabric shavers, it could have maybe helped with this issue, but I don't have one, so I did not use it, and they just are not that good for the longevity of your clothing. So yeah, but it would have really helped with the painting process. The hardest part of this process was definitely replicating the design on the other side. Since my design is symmetrical, I want them to be really close in design and placement and everything. so it was quite hard to replicate it, especially because my pencil was really not showing up. So I kind of had to like commit with the paint pretty early on. But luckily this shirt had the lines, so it was kind of easier to match. The design I just followed where the little details are on the other side and where they are relative to the lines of the shirt, so that was a bit easier. This was also a perfect time to listen to audiobooks. This sounds like I'm going to have an ad segment for Audible or something, but no, this is not sponsored by anyone, but I love audiobooks. But I was listening to the book I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harpman. It was such a good book. I really recommend it. It was like dystopian book, very mysterious, very anxiety-inducing, I would say, but it was really good. I highly recommend it. And I also started listening to Yesteryear by Caro Claire Burke, and it's a story about a trad wife who begins her story in the real time. She's a trad wife influencer and she's teleported back in time to the 1850s, and it has been quite interesting. It has been really good and very current to this time. So I'm not finished with that book yet, but so far it has been really good. After the paint had dried, I had to heat press the design onto the fabric. If you paint anything on your clothing, you always need to use heat to seal it in, because otherwise it will definitely come out in the wash. This also really helped to flatten out the acrylic paint, because before this the paint was feeling a bit crunchy and thick. As you can see from this clip, there was still some pencil marks left over, so I had to throw it in the wash, and luckily they all came out after that. And here is the finished product. I really like it. It's very casual, so I know that I will wear it all the time. For the next project, I wanted to use these buttons I had thrifted. If you have ever been to a thrift store, then you probably have also seen a lot of buttons. And if you have been online in the past like year, you probably have seen a lot of buttons used in clothing. And honestly, I think it's a very good way to upcycle buttons you find at the thrift store. And I actually did a project like this in last fall. I created this skirt with thrifted buttons and I really liked it. And I bought some new buttons from the thrift store, and ever since I have been wondering what I want to do with them. I decided to create a fake button placket for this shirt. I drew on 2 lines with my fabric chalk, and I just folded one of the lines on top of the other, creating a fake placket. I did not want to do real buttonholes because I thought that it would be pointless. I don't need the buttons to be able to put the shirt on because it's quite stretchy, so it would have just been extra work. This is what I want to do with the buttons. I really like this look of having lots of mismatching buttons and them being really close to each other, but there's gonna be a lot of hand sewing for me to do now. I wanted to transport this shirt and the buttons the way they were onto another desk I have, and I thought that I had a genius idea when I decided to use masking tape and just put every button on there in the order I want to put them onto the shirt, and I thought that this was a very efficient way to do this. Then it was time to sew on all the buttons by hand. I was very scared that this would take me like a whole day to do, but luckily it didn't. I was very efficient with the way I sewed this on. The way I had folded my thread was in a way that I had 4 threads going through the needle at once, and that allowed me to sew this on much faster than if there was only 1 thread at a time. So I had to only go into each hole once. So that really made the process a lot quicker. I was also watching some YouTube documentaries while I was doing this. I was also in a video call with my friends. You know, when you have stuff like this to do that is really tedious, it's always a great time to do something else at the same time, and honestly it's really relaxing. Does anyone have any recommendations on YouTube documentaries I could watch? I have been watching a lot of North Korea documentaries on YouTube, but I would love to watch documentaries on something else as well. So if you have recommendations, I'm very open to them. But I really love the way this top turned out. I really love how many buttons there are, how they are all different sizes, and how they are very close together. It is a very simple DIY, and if I ever wanted to, I could just unpick the buttons and unpick the sewing line I have on this top, and it would return to the old top. So if you have a top like this, then this is a very easy DIY to do. And here is the finished top. I'm very happy with the outcome, and I'm very happy that I was able to upcycle these buttons and this shirt. I'm very happy with the outcome of these upcycling projects. I'm very happy that I did not have to spend any money on this. I got this for free from my friends, and I already had bought the buttons from the thrift store, and I already had the paint. So these were really easy, really simple, but I feel like these changes added a lot of character to this clothing. I mean, there was nothing wrong with the pieces to begin with, but I just wanted to add some more detail to them to fit my own style a bit better. But I really want to continue making more thrift flips. I am feeling really inspired by these 2 projects, and I'm planning on making more thrift flips. So if you're interested, please subscribe, and I hope I will see you in my next one. Bye! If you would like to see more thrift flip videos, here are a few I have already made previously.